Hey viewers, a video I get asked for occasionally is how to convert from grip shift shifters to trigger shifters. I actually prefer trigger shifters myself, so I understand. The bike I'm working on here has got grip shift shifters and they're pretty beat up, so I was going to replace them, and I figured I'd take the opportunity to replace them with brand new trigger shifters and make a video of the process. The process is pretty straightforward. It's mostly just remove the old shifters, then it's a straight install of the new shifters. One thing you need to deal with is compatibility. On this bike here, it's got a Shimano drivetrain, so it's got Shimano derailleurs, and so I have Shimano shifters, so that's not an issue there. If you have something other than Shimano derailleurs, they might still be Shimano compatible. You'll have to do some research. Please don't ask me, just do the research. And if they are Shimano compatible, then fine, you go ahead with Shimano shifters. If they're not Shimano compatible, they might be like SRAM or Campagnolo or something different, then you're going to have to hunt around and find trigger shifters that are compatible with that particular system. Now another thing is gearing. The gearing that's on this bike is 3x8, so I have 3x8 shifters. If you have 3x7, go ahead and get 3x7 shifters. Don't mix and match on that, so don't mix and match like 3x8 shifters with 3x7 drivetrain. It's just not going to work well. Stay with the same gearing. Unless you're going to do an upgrade, but at that point that goes beyond the scope of this video, so I'm not going to get into that. Now another thing is brake levers. These particular shifters have integrated brake levers, so I'm going to make sure that they're compatible with my brakes. They're V-brake compatible, and this bike has V-brakes, so that's not an issue. If I was working on a mountain bike that had cantilever brakes, then I'd either want to get shifters with integrated brake levers that were cantilever compatible, or I could go ahead and get separate shifters that don't have the integrated brake levers, and then I could continue to use the brake levers that were already on the bike. But since these are completely compatible with my drivetrain and my brakes, I'm all set there. So life is good, and let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm going to cut all the cables since I'm going to be replacing those. And then this is already disconnected from when I worked on the forks. And I'm going to remove the grips. I could, probably just cut them off, but I may reuse them for something else. So I'm going to do is I'm going to take a small Allen wrench, or use something plastic if you're worried about scratching the handlebars, and just kind of jam this underneath. And be careful, there's a plastic washer that goes in between the shifter and the grip. Just kind of get this pressed underneath the grip a little bit. And try to get it pushed in as much as you can. And that'll make like a little bit of an opening underneath the grip. And then what I'm going to use is a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, rubbing alcohol. You can get this at your local drugstore. And kind of get that squirted in there. And the space in there, kind of allow it to get in underneath there. And then kind of start working that and allow you to slide the grip right off like that. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I got the Allen wrench wedged under there, a little bit of alcohol. Pull this off here. Take it kind of worked around a little bit and slide that off like that. And now I want to remove the shifter here. And usually, like on the back bottom side here, there's like a little Allen screw in here that clamps this thing on there, and it's a 3mm, at least on this one. And so I'm going to loosen this, and then I can just slide the shifter like right off like that. And then don't lose the little washer there. And then I want to remove the brake lever as well. And again, there's just a little Allen screw under here for the clamp. So I'll loosen this. And then I can slide this off as well. And same thing on the other side. I'm going to go ahead and loosen this little clamp screw here. Slide the shifter off. And then loosen the brake lever clamp here. And slide that off. Okay, now I'm ready to mount the new shifters here. So I'm going to put the 8-speed shifter over on the right side and the 3-speed shifter over on the left side here. And I have new grips. I'm using new grips because the grips that were on there with the grip shifts were short grips because they have to leave some space for the shifter part. But since I'm not using that, I have longer grips here for the new shifters. So I'm going to install these, and again, I'm going to use like a little bit of the rubbing alcohol here, and I can just kind of squirt a little bit in there, shake it up, and then that'll allow me to slide the grip on there like that. Then when the alcohol dries, they'll stay on there nice and solid, and I'll do the same thing for the other one. Just squirt a little bit in there, shake it up, get it all on the inside of the grip there, and then slide that on like that. Now what I can do is since I know where the end of the grip is here, I can move the shifter back, get it kind of like in place there close to the grip there, and then tighten this onto the handlebar and I can always adjust the angle and move it in and out a little bit. So, but tighten that on there for now, and kind of get this other one here about the same angle. And then tighten that on there like that. Okay, I need to cut a new bit of housing here for the front brake cable, and so I have like a little piece here. Kind of fit this in here, and here's my noodle. Put that in there. Kind of get about the size that I want here, and about like that long. Make it a little bit longer than I need to because I always cut it shorter. So cut it off right about there. And clean up the end here a little bit. And then I use a little skewer to kind of open up the lining in there. And then test run the cable through the housing, make sure that it goes through nice and smoothly. It does. And install some brake cable into the brake here. There's like a little slot that goes along the front here, and also in the little barrel adjuster there. But I can put the cable into there, run it through the slot there, and when I have the slot lined up on these, it'll go like right in there like that. Okay, I'm ready to install my cable housing here, and I'm going to put a ferrule on the end of the cable for here to go into the barrel adjuster because a ferrule will fit. And so I'm going to slide the cable into the cable housing here. Pull it through and get it up into place here like this. And then I'm not going to install a ferrule onto the other end because into the noodle here, a ferrule will not fit into that part there. So I'm not going to use a ferrule there. So basically this part here will act as a ferrule. So I'm going to slide the cable into here like this and pull this through. And then I can get this seated down here like this. Okay, I'm going to remove the remnant of the old cable out of the brake here. Just loosen this little clamp here. Okay, I got the little rubber boot that kind of fits on there, so I'm going to slide the cable through here and slide this on here like this. Kind of snap that onto there like that. And now I can slide the cable here through the clamp over here. Pull this through. Then I can pull the brakes in like this. And just I'm going to pull them in tight and then just kind of let them out a little bit. And then just kind of tentatively just tighten this just a little bit. And then I can test the brakes and feel how much movement I get on there. And that feels about right from where the brake lever is kind of going. So I'm going to tighten this down more. I can kind of test this here. Boom, it stops there. And I can always adjust it a little tighter later on. So that actually feels pretty good. And I'm going to have probably more adjusting to do, so I'm going to tighten that down like that. Then I'm going to cut the cable here. Put a little crimp end thing on here, and then tighten that onto there like that. And then I can just kind of shove this cable back behind there like that. Now I still have the other housings, but I'm not going to reuse them. But what I could do is use them just to test the length of them. So here's the cable housing for the back brake. If I go ahead and put this in here, what I can do is I can test this, because I want to do is I want to see if I turn the handlebars, is it going to bind as these turn. And that is, it turns quite a bit here, and it's maybe just, I might want just a little bit more space. It's not like totally binding there. If I kind of cut out in there like that, it starts getting a little tight there. But I think I might just cut it just a hair longer than this original piece. So I can kind of use this piece as a template for cutting my new one. So I have some new cable housing here. So I'm going to put it side by side with the old cable housing, kind of put it there. And I'm going to cut the new piece probably just about an inch longer, maybe just a little over an inch longer than the original cable, like that. And then look, clean up the end here a little bit. Kind of get nice and flat there. And clean up this other end a little bit. Like that. And again, I'm going to use my scribe to open up the lining here. And then test run the cable through the housing. Make sure it goes all the way through, and it does. Nice. And then I'm going to put a ferrule onto both ends of this cable housing, like that. And I'm going to install a cable into this brake lever the same way as I did the other side. So I'll put through this like this, and then I'll get the little slots lined up here. So I can run this through here and get this lined up, and then I can run that all the way through there like that. Okay, so I've got my new cable housing here, so I'm going to run the cable down through it. And pull the cable all the way through it. And get it seated into the barrel adjuster there. And then I'm going to route this kind of, I can either route it this way or behind this. So I think I'm going to route this behind the front derailleur cable housing. And then I'm going to run this into the cable stop underneath the top tube, just like that. And then there's another bit of brake cable housing back in here. And so I'm going to pull this out of here. And then I'm going to cut another piece to match this part here. I don't need to, I can use the exact same length for this part. Okay, here's my brand new piece of cable housing. I cut it to match the other piece, put a ferrule onto one end, and then I'm going to run the cable here through this. Up here like this. Fit this cable housing up through this little guide down here like this. And then there's a cable stop underneath the frame here like this, underneath the top tube. So there's a slot in there, so I'll run the cable through that and get that all seated down into there like this. And pull the cable up through there like that. And then I'm going to remove the remnant of old cable here from the brake. So just losing this little clamp here like this. And it's got the noodle on there, and I'm probably going to replace that noodle. Slide that out like that. Okay, now I have a new noodle, and so I'm going to slide the cable down through the noodle here. And again, I'm not using a ferrule on this end because the noodle is going to act in place of the ferrule there. And then I'll snap this into place like this here. And I have a little rubber boot here. There wasn't one on the original brake that I pulled off of here, but I have one, so I'll slide that on there like that. And I'm going to slide the cable into the clamp. And then pull the brakes in, let them out just a little bit, and then kind of tighten this down a little bit. And then test the action of the brakes there. And that actually feels pretty good. A nice movement there. The brake lever doesn't bottom out. I can always tighten that down a little bit more with the barrel adjuster. But tighten this in there. And okay. And I'm getting a lot more movement on this arm than the other arm. And it looks like the screw is already tightened down all the way down. But another little fix for something like this is I can actually bend the spring here. So if I just kind of bend the spring out a little bit and then put this back here, that'll give me more spring on that side. And so that looks much better like that. So again, I'm going to tighten this all the way down here, make sure that's nice and tight. Cut the cable. Put a little crimp end on here. And crimp that on there like that. And I could just shove this back kind of back behind like that. And so test that. Boom. So that looks pretty good. Now I'm ready to start hooking up the shifters. And so here's one of the cable housings that was on there originally. And I'm going to put this on here like this. Kind of roughly get this in position here. Hold this and kind of test how well this works. So as I move it around here, turn it, and it's got plenty of room to turn there. So I think the length is about right on this. So I'm going to cut not just one, but two cable housings this length, because the other side should be like the same length as well. Okay, so I have my new cable housings that I cut, one for each side, and I put ferrules on them. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the cable down through them like this to where it comes out the other side here. And I'm going to get it seated into the shifter here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to route these on the outside of the brake cables here. That just seems to flow better like that. And so then do the other one here. And seat these down in these cable stops on the down tube here. Just like that. And then in preparation for installing the new cables here, I'm going to remove the old cables from the derailleurs. So loosen this clamp here and pull this cable out here. I'm going to cut a new piece of cable housing for this part back here as well. And then remove the big cable housing here from the front derailleur. And pull that out of there like that as well. I'm going to run the cables in through the cable guides underneath the bottom bracket here. I'm just going to go ahead and run both cables here while I'm down here. And so then this is going to go here and should run up. Okay, so I have both these cables here like that. And then I got my new cable housing here for the rear derailleur. And so I'm going to slide the cable in through here and get it seated down in this cable stop over there. And then run this down through the barrel adjuster here. Like this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust this barrel adjuster. Tighten it in and then back it out maybe like a turn and a half. That'll give me some room to adjust it. And then I'll stick the ferrule into there like that. Now with the chain on the smallest cog, and I have the shifter shifted so that it's completely loose, so that the cable is as most out as it's going to go. I'm going to run this into the cable guide here, kind of pull the cable taut, and then tighten this down here. I'm not going to totally clamp it down, but tighten it so that the cable's not going to slip. Okay, now I'm ready to test the shifting. So I have it on the smallest cog. So turning, and I'll shift it up. One notch, one click, one click, one click, one click, one click, up, down, 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 down. Oh, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to tighten this all the way. Clip this off. And put a crimp on here. And there. So, I mean, it worked out pretty good. That, you know, the shifting is pretty good right as it is, but I could have used the barrel adjuster to move it in and out just a little bit to adjust the shifting one way or the other, but it looks pretty good as it is. Okay, I'm ready to start hooking up the front derailleur here, and that's usually a little trickier here, but you know, it's manageable. So I'm going to go ahead and shift the rear derailleur onto the biggest cog. And then I want to look at the chain and the gap between the chain and the cage there. And there's a very small gap, but I want to bring the chain over just to kind of touch the, bring the cage over just to try to touch the chain just a little bit there. And so there it is there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the cable up. And so depending on the derailleur that you're working with, the cable routing might be different here. But I'm going to bring this up here like this. And then I'm going to pull the cable tight in here. And then tighten this clamp down onto the cable. Like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this limiting screw out a little bit so that there's just a small gap now, about a 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter gap between the chain and the cage there. Just out just a little bit like that. Okay, so now what I can do is test the shifting. So turn this and I'll try to shift up to the middle ring. And that worked pretty good. And I'm going to shift up to the big ring. That worked. Shift down, shift up, shift up. And that looks pretty good. And I'm going to shift the rear derailleur down to the small cog. And then I'm going to check the shifting again. Down, so shift down, shift down. Shift up, and that's pretty good. And like that. I think I'm going to let this limiting screw for the high out maybe a little bit, because I see if maybe the cage can come over just a little bit. Down, up, down, up. And that actually looks pretty good. So now I'm going to cut this cable here. Actually, maybe a little shorter. And then put a crimp end on here, like that. Like that. And then test the shifting again. I want to make sure this cable doesn't come over and run into the chain on any of the shifts. And that actually looks pretty good. There, all done. Brand new trigger shifters. And I think they look pretty good. And that's how to convert from grip shifts over to trigger shifters. Not that big of a deal. Hope you found that useful or interesting. If you did, please click like on my video. It helps me out. If you're not subscribed to my channel, click the big subscribe button and you'll see new videos that come out. And I have a webpage, rjthebikeguy.com. go over there, check that page out. I have a lot of my videos all categorized. I have some forums over there where you can post stuff or ask questions about bike repair. Just register for that webpage over there. And I am on Facebook, RJ the Bike Guy. Go over there, like that page. I post a lot of stuff over there as well. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.